And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everyone. What is going on? And happy 316 day as the road to WrestleMania 40 continues. We are now just a couple of weeks away from the show of all shows, and we've got a lot to get into today, including The Rock back at it again for, I believe, the third week in a row, cutting his double dose of promos on social media and on SmackDown. More of the same from The Rock, a lot of fun. WrestleMania finally starting to take shape. I think the card is becoming close to completion. We're nearing the completion of the WrestleMania card. Couple of matches still to be tacked on, but we got a really good look now, especially after last night's SmackDown with a couple of more matches announced, what the WrestleMania card is looking like. So we will get into that, dissect it a bit, and talk a lot about The Rock, Cody Rhodes, Cody's mom, The Rock's heel theme returning last night on SmackDown, which was just incredible. And of course, we had the return of the Rock concert where Rock, took some shots at Seth Rollins and specifically Cody Rhodes. And I think this coming Monday on Raw is going to be crucial to how the rest of the WrestleMania booking goes and how strong Cody remains going into WrestleMania. Because based on what The Rock said about Cody's mom, I can't imagine Cody just being fine with that or offering a lame type of response on Monday night. I think this really needs to light a fire under Cody, and I want to see a different side of this man that isn't crying on Monday night as he, I believe, will head into WrestleMania and finish his story. But we do have a lot to talk about as it relates to The Rock, what he said, and how those matches are going to go at WrestleMania, some of the hints that are already being dropped and have been dropped, and what we might see. We've been talking about this a lot over the past couple of weeks, but I feel like we're going to be delving into a lot of that here today as well. We have some wrestling news to get into first, a lot of tidbits. Darby Allin, WWE and GCW. We've got some Hall of Fame news, latest inductee announced this week as well, and who might be left to still be announced. We're going to talk about the Booker T and CM Punk little issue that did not even happen, it sounds like, behind the scenes, a potential Brock Lesnar return, a little bit about Max Caster. Also, those AEW Tag Team title tournament brackets have been released. We'll preview Monday's Raw. We got the big contract signing between Sami Zayn and Gunther on Monday, and then, of course, this past Wednesday at Big Business, we saw the debut of Mercedes Moné. We saw a title match on that show. That's also where Darby Allin suffered the broken foot. We'll look at the Dynasty card, a couple of matches announced, and we'll look at the matches that will likely be announced for Dynasty. And of course, we'll recap last night's SmackDown and preview all of WrestleMania 40. That's kind of what's on tap on the menu for today on Winged Eagle Saturday. So thank you so much for being here. Happy weekend to you. It's going to be a busy next few days and week here on the channel, so stay tuned. I'll let you know what we're going to see or what you're going to be seeing here in just a minute. Let me go over here to the chat and just say hello to everyone that is hanging out, waiting for us, or waiting for me, as it did take me a couple of minutes to get up here live today, but I want to welcome the channel members. Let me try to find those first, because I have a special thank you to all of the channel members. Let's start with Ben Espinoza and OTS Tribal Queen. What's up, man? Good to see you. We also have an extremely ancient, very old, crazy old, dirt old, older than Jesus old, my friend Kevin, K-Dog's Kennel, who turns 42. I didn't even know numbers went that high. Turns 42 tomorrow, and he's going to be joining us for our WrestleMania 24 watch-along. Happy early birthday to you, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, if you can make it that long, because 42 is really old, and most people don't live to be 43. So hopefully K-Dog will be with us here tomorrow, if old age doesn't do him in. Gilbert is here. Good to see you. I also want to welcome more channel members like Isaac, Sonic Plays, and Brandon McNeil in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Also, Luke McAllister is here with a very generous $10 drop. Hey, Greg, how about Rocky versus Mama Rhodes opening night 2? Seems like Rock loves to sing about his rival's mothers, given he sang about Mama Cena in 2012. Can't imagine Cody is taking this lying down. He better not be. And like I said a minute ago, that's going to be crucial. I did not know or remember, I guess, that Rock sang about Mama Cena in 2012. That's pretty funny. But I've been mentioning Cody's mom for the past couple of weeks when I've been talking about my overbooking. I wanted her to hit a shooting star press on Roman Reigns, but now I think that needs to be on The Rock. I think they definitely need to do a spot now at WrestleMania where she slaps The Rock or something like that. They have to, you know. Sometimes moms get involved. You know, who do you think would win a triple threat between Cody's mom, Sue, and Judy Bagwell? Give it some thought. Let me know by the end of the show. Denny Downbad is also here. Welcome my channel member friends. Deshaun Robinson as well. Mr. J in the house. We got Zane G as well. Ken Webb. And K-Dog's Candle is still here, so he's made it a few more minutes. It's that old age, man. It'll sometimes get you. You got to watch out for it. But glad you're here, my friend. Good to see you as always. And I want to massive thank you to all of the channel members. Finally, for the first time on the channel, since we started doing the memberships, we are over 100 members on the channel. That's awesome. So thank you to everyone who is a current member. Memberships are available. Details in the description box below if you want to check those out. And I do owe you guys an updated video on the membership. Video, and I need to kind of work on that. So that's on my list. But we're in the middle of WrestleMania month right now on the channel. And we got a big weekend and a big week coming up. Not only are we going to bust out this big-ass podcast today, but tomorrow we are back for another classic WrestleMania watch-along, and we're going modern. We're going back to 2008. We usually don't do WrestleManias this modern, but WrestleMania 24 is the show that we're going to watch tomorrow. Of course, that has the big Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair retirement match, Money in the Bank, Edge and Undertaker headline that show, I believe. I have not watched this show in a long time, so I felt like this would be an appropriate one to do tomorrow. So far this year, we've watched WrestleMania 22, WrestleMania 8, and WrestleMania 5, I believe. So now tomorrow we are going to go back to 2008 and watch WrestleMania 24 together. The link is already up on my channel for tomorrow. So you can find that, save it, and join us tomorrow evening, regular time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, to watch WrestleMania 24. That's going to be a lot of fun. We will also be back this coming Monday for a Raw review because I'm very interested to see what Cody Rhodes says and what his response is going to be to what The Rock said about him and his mom yesterday on social media and on SmackDown. So we will be here for a Raw review this coming Monday. Then this coming Wednesday, the 20th, I have got a special 30th anniversary WrestleMania review that's going to drop on the channel this coming Wednesday. And then this coming Friday, 1 week from yesterday, another YouTube collab will drop. So it's a busy week. We got today, we got tomorrow for the watch along, Monday for the Raw review, Wednesday for the special 30th anniversary review, and next Friday for another YouTube collab. And then 1 week from today, right back here again for the Wingy. So that's what we have going on this week for those of you scoring at home. Let me see. What else do we have to talk about here before we get into stuff? I don't think we got to get into anything. Let me also say hello, though, to Shane Belfast. We got Gilbert and Green Pea up in here. Martin Tomlinson is here as well. I want to welcome the new one, WWE fan, Shell Shock. Gilbert, did I get you already? I think I did. We've got Steve Jacobson is here as well. Jay Lambo. Rodrigo is here. Rodrigo, you're going to do a watch alone? I hope it's a watch along. You can watch alone if you want, or you can come and join us and watch together. It's up to you. The choice is yours, Rodrigo. Gerard 316, my dad's middle name is Gerard. What's up? Daniel Barry Sports Highlights and Vash Starwind. Right on. Okay, cool. I think that pretty much knocks that out. As always, though, do me a big favor. Smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. Subscribers are moving upwards. It's been a pretty good year so far, but I still need more than we've got. So please, if you are not a subscriber, become one and hang around for WrestleMania this week because it's going to be a big week on the channel. Big month of March still to come before we get to April. And then, of course, start looking on my channel within the next, I'd say, week. Probably this week is when I'm going to start putting up all of my WrestleMania weekend links. Watch along, live reaction, Hall of Fame review links, all that stuff is going to start hitting the channel soon. So pay attention to that latest content tab. In the next few days, you'll start seeing all of our WrestleMania week festivities starting to hit because it's going to be a long one and you guys are going to see a whole lot of me. So buckle up. A lot of this bald head coming at you in the next several weeks. Good to see Fox Star Killer in here, my shoot brother, 15 months. I feel like The Rock should do a roast song to the tune of Eagles' King of Hollywood. Also, that's also that he's bringing back his Hollywood theme, ditching that lame, electrifying, nobody asked for. I was so happy to hear that theme come back last night. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The new one's got $5 for us. Thanks, dude. What's up, Greg and family? What's up, Vontae? Always good to see you. I recognize that face. I will be at both nights at Mania. That's awesome. And I will bring a sign that says, finally, Vontae has come to his first WrestleMania. Dude, the fact that WrestleMania 40 is going to be your first WrestleMania, what a WrestleMania to go to first. 40, the 40th one. I'm still blown away we've even had 40 of these fucking things. And that's going to be your first one. And I think you've picked a pretty good one to pop your cherry because that's going to be a big night for a lot of people. I'm happy for you, man. I'm jealous. It's going to be fun, but I'm also very excited to be here on the channel for WrestleMania because last year I went and I missed out on that week-long, just packed channel of content, and this year we get to do that. So I am a little bit excited about that. So right on. Let me give this channel a refresh here just so I make sure that my chat is up to date. Again, we could really use the likes on this video, so if you can get us up to 150, 200 likes, I'll shut up, okay? How about that? Is it a deal? All right, well, let's talk about some wrestling news first. Let's talk about some good news. I have some great news for all of you. Great news. This warmed my heart. This made me so happy to hear that Darby Allin is injured. Darby Allin broke his foot. Doesn't that make you happy? Okay, now in what world does that sentence make sense? I'll tell you what world. The world in which Darby Allin is about to go climb Mount Everest in a couple of weeks and potentially not come back. Darby Allin, big first time ever match this past Wednesday at Big Business on Dynamite against Jay White, a match that I was really looking forward to. And apparently, according to Darby Allin, who tweeted out, I believe yesterday, a picture of his x-ray of his foot and about 3 broken bones in his foot, which looked gnarly. Ouch. Sounds like he did break his foot in that match against Jay White. When I watch it back, I can't tell where it happened because he seems to be walking around just fine on the foot until he misses the coffin drop on the apron. And then he kind of hobbles a little bit. So unless like when he hit the apron and rolled off, he landed funny, I don't know what, but Darby Allin has broke his foot. And according to his social media post, Mount Everest will have to wait until next year. So he is putting this off a year. Doesn't mean he's not doing it. Just means it's going to be delayed a year, which means we get him now in we get him alive for another year. Once he heals up from this broken foot, he can get back in the ring. And then maybe we'll get lucky. He'll wrestle a great year. And then before it's time to go climb Mount Everest next year, he'll get hurt with another minor injury again. And he'll be out for another few months, saving his life again. One can only hope, right? I'm obviously kidding here. We wish the best to Darby Allin. Heartbroken for him that he did suffer an injury because I do know that Mount Everest is something that he wants to do. It's a personal goal that he wants to do, and I feel bad for him that he has to live with that disappointment. But knowing the dangers involved there, we can't put ourselves in Darby's mind or his shoes or anything like that. So, the motivations of some to do this, it's really tough for regular people to question that if we don't get it, So I think a lot of us are just concerned because of how many people have lost their lives doing this climb and how dangerous of an escapade it actually is. And Darby is a great wrestler that entertains a lot of fans and nobody wants to see him die. So I think watching people celebrate his injury this week, obviously we're not celebrating him getting hurt. That sucks. But I'm terrified for the guy. I don't want him to climb up the fucking mountain. I don't. So now it's going to be delayed another year. Darby does not strike me as a guy that, just gives up on shit. So I feel like he's going to get this done, or he's at least going to attempt it one way or the other. So I don't know if this was divine intervention or, if the universe or the stars align just perfectly for, Darby to survive this one. If he wouldn't have broken his foot, maybe he goes on this escapade and he dies. But now that he broke his foot, waits a year, goes next year, lives through it. Who knows? You don't know how the butterfly effect multiverse works. It's crazy, but Darby is at least safe and alive and well for at least the next year. And best of luck in his recovery. That did not look like a pleasant injury and probably not very fun to heal either. So hopefully he can get back in the ring as quickly as possible. Here's some interesting news that I liked. WWE is going to be working with Game Changer Wrestling. Now, there's always been some rumblings of that, but this was a major development this week that became apparent when it was announced that multiple WWE talent will be competing at Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. I think it's Bloodsport 10. That's going to be on April 4th in Philly. And so far, Shayna Baszler is booked for this event, and she is not going to be the only one. So that's kind of an interesting working agreement there. Definitely a new age in WWE. Now, they've had some working arrangements with other promotions before throughout the years. They've even teased a little bit of this in recent years, having like Evolve on the WWE network and whatnot. And you could see that this was something that Triple H wanted to explore, expanding into, the UK, Japan, things like that. But now with AEW around, they're doing a lot of working agreements. And honestly, they were always in a better position to do that. But now with this latest partnership, that's kind of interesting. Fightful Select just had a quick little report or update on this yesterday that just confirmed that multiple WWE stars will be competing at Bloodsport. So that's interesting there, very interesting, and just kind of cool, Like, I like that we're going to see a little bit of co-promotion from both of the big two. If both of the big two can, kind of dip their toes in some of their, smaller competitors' waters a little bit, and just, that can just create better matches, better moments for the fans, and it just helps the business in general. So I really think this is cool. Don't see much of Game Changer Wrestling outside. I've never bought one of their shows outside of the countless amounts of YouTube clips and social media clips and matches that are available that I've seen. Have never put down money for a show ever, even though they do some great shit there. So this is interesting, and really kind of liked to read that. I like that. I like that type of stuff. So very, very cool. Sounds like WrestleMania weekend in Philly is going to be packed full of a lot of fun shit, including the Hall of Fame. So WWE has announced their latest inductee to this year's 2024 Hall of Fame class, and it is none other than Thunderbolt Patterson. Now, I'm glad that I heard about this induction just a couple of weeks after we heard the story about The Rock having input on the WWE Hall of Fame. It doesn't necessarily mean he's making all of the decisions and deciding who's going in. It just means he has input. And this has The Rock's name written all over it. Thunderbolt Patterson, I'm not going to lie, is a name that could go either way. He could be Hall of Fame worthy, or he could not. It depends on how you measure the criteria. He was a big time star in the 1970s, doing the majority of his business and found the majority of his fame in Georgia. He worked the Mid-Atlantic, he worked Georgia, he worked Florida, and, NWA territories, but primarily really got over in Georgia, and got over primarily because of his promo skills. This guy was ahead of his time in that regard, which is why I can see why The Rock would be attracted to him and maybe want to put him into the Hall of Fame, because of how incredibly good he was on the mic and how he could talk and have his promos flow. He basically didn't talk like a wrestler cutting a promo. He talked like a pastor, like a preacher. And that's kind of what got him over in the South, particularly with the black audience, because he was so incredibly good. And when you watch promos of his from the 1970s, you're like, nobody was doing that type of stuff back then. He was cutting the type of promos that just weren't really that common. He had a level of charisma that you just didn't see everywhere. A lot of guys were fucking stiffs, back then. And he was just a guy that had a lot of soul, a lot of charisma, and he was a lot of fun in his promos. Even when he didn't say anything, you were captivated by it. He could talk. He just had that. What he didn't have is very much ability in the ring. For the most part, he was a pain in the ass to work with, kind of difficult, wasn't very great in the ring. That's the problem. His work was largely shit, but he got over like Rover, in the South with those promos and with that audience during that time, and he was great for that. He was instrumental too, in kind of like the formation of like the original foundation of the Four Horsemen, because he was tag team partners with Ole Anderson, and they won some championships together. They were baby faces. Ole dumps him to join up with his kayfabe cousin Arn Anderson, and that would form, that nucleus, that original foundation of the original Four Horsemen. And Thunderbolt Patterson was a part of that. But he was doing kind of shady shit too, man. He had you know, he was threatening like racial discrimination lawsuits, you know, if he wouldn't get hired or booked and things like that. And he kind of knew a lot of the civil rights people, you know, in town that he could go to and say, I'm going to expose the business, you know, for this and that. And so he, you know, he did some sketchy shit, you know, but when you look back at his work, what you see is the promo. The promo is just superb. He's so good in the ring, not so good. I've heard, you know, back in the day, I used to be a shoot interview junkie, you know, now everything's morphed into podcasts, but back in the day it was shoot interviews, and I would do everything I could to get any shoot interview I could, or record one, or get a file of one, or whatever. And I heard several Thunderbolt Patterson stories over the years, in the last like 20 years, and none of them were good. None of them. I've never heard anybody say, man, that guy was a fucking joy to work with. It was always usually the opposite. People would have good things to say about him. It's not like they hated him or anything. It was just like, sometimes he could be difficult. And so he didn't have the greatest reputation, but his promo, I think, is what is Hall of Fame worthy. The way he spoke, how he delivered his promo for the time, at the time, wasn't something that was super common. And you had the Dusties still, Superstar Billy Graham, even JYD, but he was different. Thunderbolt was different, and he will be going into the Hall of Fame this year. And like I said, it's not like it's a shocking induction, and I'm not against Thunderbolt Patterson going in at all, and I certainly don't want to be those fans that is like, well, what about, you know, I don't want to be what about, you know, I don't want to worry about who goes in before somebody else, but I do wonder where the fuck Miss Elizabeth is, and where Rick Martel is, and where Bam Bam Bigelow is, and a lot of other wrestlers, tag teams like Demolition, and other wrestlers that haven't made it in yet that are long overdue. So Thunderbolt, sure, this feels like something where The Rock is, I could just envision The Rock in like a production meeting, you know, because I'm pretty sure his dad, you know, had a good relationship with Thunderbolt, and so did Tony Atlas. But I almost can like envision Rock kind of like lecturing or trying to like educate, you know, the meeting on who Thunderbolt Patterson is. And he was great. But, you know, when it comes to the WWE Hall of Fame, I can probably think of a good dozen names that I might nod ahead of him. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, still cool for him. And like I said, not against it in any way. That was one that just raised my people's eyebrow a little bit. Surprising, just a little bit surprising. That's all. Now, this list, this Hall of Fame inductee list, has been spot on with some leak that I think was posted on Reddit somewhere. I don't have the source, so I can't credit it. But there was a leak a few weeks ago that has every name on here so far. US Express and Bull Nakano, Paul Heyman, even Thunderbolt, and two other names that have not yet been announced. One is The Rock's grandmother, Leah Maivia, and the other one was Bray Wyatt. Now, Bray Wyatt apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, is not happening. He was talked about going in this year, but according to Dave, now I'm not saying Dave's right, but according to Dave, there will be no Bray Wyatt this year. Paul Heyman is the headliner, and we should only be getting one more name, and that's going to be The Rock's grandmother. So she will probably be the final name to be announced. Rock will probably be a part of this. Rock's going to be all over this WrestleMania. He's going to be inducting probably his grandmother into the WWE Hall of Fame, and he's going to be wrestling on night 1 and night 2. This whole show, even with The Rock not getting that Mania main event against Roman Reigns, I argue that he actually found himself better off. He's now more involved in the show than he might have been if he would have gotten that match with Reigns, because now not only is he probably going to be involved in the Hall of Fame, we know he's main eventing night 1, he's going to be all over that main event of night 2, and he might even get a match against Cody's mom. So The Rock has done a great job of making this year's Hall of Fame about him. So way to go, Dwayne. So we will see who is right, that original leaked list that so far is 100% accurate, or if Meltzer is correct and we will not see Bray Wyatt this year. And if we don't, I personally am fine with that. I don't think WWE necessarily needs to rush it with Bray Wyatt the way they did with Eddie Guerrero. I can understand the instinct and the urge to want to put Bray Wyatt in, but at the same time, maybe it is better to breathe for a year first. I mean, Bray just passed away, in August or something, or September? Just a few months ago. His family, might not even be ready for this yet. He's got young kids. He's got JoJo. He's got an ex. He has a brother. He's got family, and his father is also going into the Hall of Fame the same night. And you would think that Mike Rotundo would be a part of his induction whether he's inducting him or accepting on his behalf or whatever. So Rotunda would kind of be doing double duty essentially at the Hall of Fame. And plus maybe the family's just not quite ready for that. If it was my spouse or if it was my father or anybody that I love dearly that died at a young age unexpectedly, then I might not be ready in 6-7 months to stand in front of 15,000 people and talk about them. I might need a year and a half or something. So this might have to be a WrestleMania 41 type of thing. So we will find out. But if Bray Wyatt does not go in this year, I, for one, am fine with that because I still think this is a really solid class and Paul Heyman is a very fitting headliner for this year. So I think Hall of Fame class for this year looks to be about set. So there you go. Man, what was going on with Booker T and CM Punk this week? Oh, Leah was announced. Okay, I'm sorry. Nate Dogg, I did not realize that. I did not realize that she has already been announced. Okay, I must have missed that. I'm an idiot. Well, we figured that she is going in. So it sounds like the list is now complete unless they hit us with Bray Wyatt right at the end. We kind of don't know. Also, before I get into the Booker T and CM Punk stuff, I want to thank Jay Boba. Earlier on, dropped $10 in. I want to hit that. Hey, Greg, I find it baffling that some fans are still arguing that Roman should retain. I'm not even getting into that shit today. They are clearly setting up Cody to be the new face of the company and Rock turning on Roman after Mania with everything that they're doing with The Rock, all of his promos and the shit that he's saying about Cody and his mom. If they... Cody, I mean, they're telling us Cody's winning. So for them not to do that now, I don't really care about the fans that want to argue that Roman should retain. I know those type of fans, and I know their mindset. They are as predictable as fucking gravity, and they don't really believe that. It's just, that's just what they say. I don't know, engagement farming type of shit. And even if they do believe it, or even if they really do feel that way, it's not based on how they actually feel like it should go. The reason they feel that way is because they get annoyed at the Cody fans online. And so now they've taken this stance because those people annoy them. That's the way wrestling is driven that way. This channel was started that way because of taking a stance because of the way other fans, because of the opposite stance that you see from other fans and it bothers you. So then you just triple down on one, specific belief that really when you think about, you might not feel that way if you didn't have all that outside shit, that was kind of dictating all of it. That's kind of the way I see a lot of arguing online go. I don't think those people that are arguing Cody should or Roman should retain really feel that way. I think they're annoyed by Cody fans online, so they're adopting this stance. That's just basic human psychology. But I'm not too concerned with arguing with those people because they're meaningless. Rodrigo, $2. Appreciate it, man. I'm fine if Taz is not in the Hall of Fame this year. Well, good. I'm glad that you're fine with that. That's good. I'm fine with it too. I think Taz is definitely Hall of Fame worthy, but Taz also works for another company, and he is probably not gonna be available even if they wanted to put him in. All right, let's talk about Booker T and CM Punk. So Booker T in his latest podcast mentioned, and not only did he mention this was clipped out of his podcast and posted to his YouTube channel. So it's not like it was just in the middle of his rambling and he mentioned something off the cuff or out of context or whatever. This was clipped out and specifically put out there for people to see, where he claims that Punk was hanging around NXT this week, which he tends to do since he's been injured and stuff, and that the two of them almost got into it. We almost got into a beef, I think he said. He goes, I don't want to put it out there because then the internet will run with it. But then he put it out there. He put it on YouTube. I don't understand Booker T sometimes. He's a very strange one. So Booker T makes this claim that him and CM Punk got into some altercation or something. And Fightful Select had a report on this yesterday. Here's what they said, and I quote, earlier this week, Booker T shared a story on his podcast claiming he and Punk had almost gotten into it backstage. In speaking to sources within NXT, Fightful's Corey Brennan was told there was a feeling of skepticism regarding Booker's comments, with no sources being aware of the confrontation prior to his podcast. One source pointed out that Punk has not had any issues backstage since his return and expressed surprise that Booker would make such a claim without offering more context. Security was also not made aware of any such confrontation and no talk or such talk of an incident. In addition, NXT sources told Sean Ross Sapp that Punk has been very helpful and open to lending a hand in any way he can since his return to WWE last year. Punk was also said to be in good spirits at the taping and largely kept to himself outside of speaking with Shawn Michaels, Matt Bloom, and a few members of the NXT roster. One talent Fightful spoke with flat out denied the incident taking place, pointing out Booker's previous claims of heat between he and Corey Graves that turned out to be false. There was a sense of frustration from those Fightful spoke to that Booker would make such a claim about Punk, given Punk's history with backstage altercations. So this is just weird. Now, Booker T is, he always spouts off with these hot takes that usually suck. So, whenever he has an opinion that I don't agree with, I don't give a shit. It's Booker T. He's going to say stupid shit. But this is really weird. This makes no sense to me unless they're, attempting to either do a wrestling angle out of this or have CM Punk do an angle in NXT, or maybe Booker T wants CM Punk on his podcast. Whatever the point to this was, it seems really dumb because he's stating something that happened on his podcast and then nobody saw this thing happen unless it's a wrestling angle, which the way he was speaking didn't sound like he was talking about a wrestling angle. It's just a little bit weird. And so the fact that nobody knew what this was about, nobody saw this confrontation take place, Booker T, I think, there was some about backstage meeting years ago that Punk and Booker were a part of, with some locker room leader stuff or whatever, but I don't think that was any long-standing heat between the two, and Punk already has this history of backstage altercation. So if this is Booker T trying to do something to sabotage him, like I'm going to claim we almost got into it and fuck him up without thinking that people are going to be able to deny or corroborate his story, and the fact that that thought process wasn't completed is just a little bit weird to me. So the whole entire story is just weird. And it's not even a story. This came out of Booker T's mouth. He said on his podcast, almost got into it with CM Punk. And then a whole bunch of people were like, we didn't see that happen. And we haven't even heard CM Punk respond to this. So it's a non-story really, but it's just funny because it's one of those things like, why am I even reading this? Why is this even a thing? Like, why did this even happen this week? Why did Booker T even say that? What was the motivation? What was the point? What the fuck was he remembering? And what did he think happened backstage that was enough for him to say on his podcast that he almost got into it with CM Punk when everybody else that works there never saw any sort of thing or issue between you guys at all? Did it happen in the shitter? Maybe it did. Maybe Booker T was in there taking the Browns to the Super Bowl. Punk walked in, singing some song that Booker T doesn't like. He kicked the stall open. They got in each other's faces and nobody saw it. It's possible. Punk is a big Hanson fan. He loves Bop. It's his favorite song. So if he comes just strolling in, bop, 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 into the bathroom while Booker T's, throwing down a big Stanley steamer, it might not be good timing and Booker T might get mad. That might have been where the fight took place. If it is, you heard it here first on Good Micro Commentaries. The fight took place in the shitter. Speaking of somebody who might be in the shitter, Brock Lesnar, there's been some talk about Brock in the past week or so about a potential WWE return. Now, there have been rumblings from a lot of people. I think Meltzer and Alvarez and others over the last week or so and few days have been speculating about Brock Lesnar being discussed internally behind the scenes in WWE for a potential return to TV. Now, he was originally slated to face Gunther for the IC title at WrestleMania, but once the details of the Janelle Grant and Vince McMahon lawsuit were revealed and Brock Lesnar being implemented in that, WWE decided to remove him from TV, at least for the time being. Now, I don't know how much truth there is to any of these reports that WWE is thinking about bringing Brock Lesnar back, but I feel like bringing him back now is just probably not a good idea because you've already moved forward with WrestleMania plans without him. So to bring him in now, you would be shoehorning him in, which would be fucking pointless. Unless Brock really wants that Mania payday, And he's trying to force the issue here, but with Vince gone, I can't see how much power Lesnar would really have just to say, I'm coming in and working a match, whether you guys like it or not. Don't think it really works that way, especially in a situation like his. I don't think Brock Lesnar is in any position to be making any demands, especially when you read that lawsuit and you read what he was actually accused of and what the lawsuit alleges Brock did, and you read those details, which they are not good. When you read that, I don't know how you can read that and think that bringing Brock Lesnar back is a good idea. Now, I wanted to refresh my memory on some of this stuff because when I spoke about it last week, I couldn't remember. I was like, was it just Brock saw a text message? Was it just Vince showing him a text message or something? What was in his involvement? And then I went in and read. I'm like, oh yeah. He can't come back. He can't come back. He can't come back right now. So I feel like, in the future, who knows what WWE is going to do? But I think that bringing Brock Lesnar back to WWE TV right now would be a horrible idea. And plus, number two, they're still in the middle of this. Brock Lesnar even being discussed for a return, I don't think should even happen until like all of this shit is done and all of the consequences and repercussions have come down, and Vince has gone through whatever criminal or legal proceedings he needs to go through to get the lawsuit settled or to trial or whatever. And then WWE takes whatever final necessary steps needed in the company to remove the rest of that cancer. Then maybe you can bring Brock's name up in a discussion. And then it'll be a whole different thing for the fans to debate whether or not it's right or wrong. Right now, it feels like the only answer to this is no, to bring him back right now. Just not a good idea. I would wait until all of this shit is done with. And plus, I don't think bringing Brock in would necessarily be a just Triple H decision or just Nick Khan decision. This is something that probably needs to be discussed with their lawyers. Their lawyers should advise them, I believe, on how to handle Brock Lesnar based on the allegations, based on what the suit alleges he was involved in. It's our opinion that you should not bring him back in. I mean, I would definitely have these discussions with lawyers before anything is brought back with Brock. Right now, it's just a little bit too early. And no matter, even the gnarliest details tend to get less effective the more time goes on. If you've ever noticed that, some people who do stupid shit, say stupid shit, if enough time passes, sometimes you can be brought back in. There's only a few times where, like the Tessa Blanchards and whatnot that have been, completely cock blocked from wrestling, pretty much permanently. But, where Brock falls in this, I'd be embarrassed if I was him. I wouldn't be in any rush to come back. Brock is a guy that, we've always heard about, likes to keep to himself, lives all the way up there in BFE somewhere, and doesn't like to interact with a whole lot of people. And for him to want to come back and to be able to hear and absorb all of those negative comments that are going to be coming his way, especially this fresh after all of this news and the details in this lawsuit came out. It was recently. I mean, if I was Brock, I'd want to lay low for a year too. I'd be like, look, WWE, don't call me until like next year. Let me just fade away. People forget about me. Then when I come back, maybe there's a whole bunch of new fresh shit to worry about. And, my situation is kind of swept under the rug or not considered as big of a deal. If I'm in Brock Lesnar's shoes, that would be my thought process here. Like, just stay away. I would not want to come back right now. And WWE is not in a position creatively heading into WrestleMania where he's even needed. They don't need him. They're doing a great job building this year's WrestleMania. I'm pretty excited for the card, to be honest. And this is a card that's not having a Brock Lesnar and CM Punk, two men we were expecting to be on the show, both not on the show. And I think the card, both nights, look great. So I think we are in for a great WrestleMania with or without Brock Lesnar. We don't need him. So at least for this year, Brock has got to stay out. I would personally, as a fan, be disappointed if we saw Brock make a surprise return to TV in the next couple of weeks before WrestleMania, because I don't know where he would fit in. What would you do with him? What would you do with him? He doesn't need to be there. Nothing. Let's talk about the AEW tag team brackets came out. They did not reveal these on Dynamite, I don't believe, but these were revealed, I think, in the last day or two. And it looks like they're going to have wild cards. I think it's an 8-man tournament, I think, and they're going to have some wild cards and all of that. But at the end of the day, the finals are going to be at Dynasty. And on one side of the brackets, you have the Young Bucks. And on the other side of the brackets, you have FTR. Now, granted, Top Flight and Ricky Starks and Big Bill are also on FTR's side of the bracket, but I don't know how you don't do FTR and the Bucks. I don't know how you don't do that match at Dynasty. So I feel like this tournament was pretty much designed for the Bucks to win anyway. If I'm AEW, I'm putting the titles on the heel Bucks right now because they're doing great work, and I'm loving the addition of Okada to the Elite. So it feels like that's going to be what the finals are going to be. I want to mention that Max Caster tweet. I don't know what's going on with him, if this is like part of his gimmick. He's fucking up his raps lately on TV. I think that's kind of on purpose, though. And he's trying to be edgy online, but he's just coming off like a dick. And he posted a picture of him and currently suspended AEW star Sammy Guevara with his arm around him saying, "I just talked to Sammy Guevara. He's a great guy." Now, I cannot remember what specific tweet or picture that's referencing. All I know is it has something to do with the comments that Sammy Guevara was ousted for making years ago back in like 2020. And 2020 comments that then were 4 years old came out about what he said about Sasha Banks, you know, saying he wanted to do the R word to her, and he got a lot of heat for that. Now that came out in 2020. So that itself was 4 years ago. So these comments are now 8 years old total. Came out in 2020. He had to apologize to it. I think he got in trouble with AEW for it. Also had to, apologize to Mercedes, which she accepted. And then somebody, it might have been CM Punk, I think posted the picture of, "I talked to Sammy Guevara, he's a great," something like that. I forgot what the picture was referencing, but it's definitely tied into the Sasha Banks, Sammy Guevara comments. And it just wasn't a good look for him. So I don't know what's going on with Max Caster, if he's really, disgruntled behind the scenes. I don't know if he is. He's not doing his partner any favors. These guys are a tag team here. I can understand a little bit of their frustration because they were super over, and, they seem to suffer from, the wrath of, Tony Khan's disorganization. So that does suck for them, but I don't know what the point of him doing this stuff is, because it looks like he got nothing but heat for that. It wasn't even like, "Oh, that's funny," or "Oh, I like that reference," or "Oh, that was clever." It was, "No, you're a dick." So I don't know if that's really the best strategy for Max Caster, but you guys fill me in there on the in the chat. Jody Swift, first time chatter, long time viewer. Love to see that. Good to see you, Jody. Thanks for being here. Let me knock out these super chats. I got a couple of them coming in real quick. Let's hit Hugh Cyril. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, man. Good to see you. Appreciate that. Hey, Greg, I've been listening to you since you did that one video on religion in 2012. You're the best. Greetings from Switzerland. Right on. So it's fucking 12 years. Jesus Christ. I'm coming up on April 11th. Will be 14 years on YouTube. Fuck me. Where is the time going? Nikita Abalakin, appreciate the super from you. First Saturday at a new bar, so definitely missing the stream. Need Gunther to win the world championship in the main event here in Berlin at Bash. Yeah, can he go to Bash? Can he go to Bash at Berlin? Gunther's got that no travel thing right now because of his visa, but maybe the Bash is far enough away where he can be there. I don't know what the deal there is. But, and you're at a new bar. Are you at a new bar working or at a new bar drinking? If you're at a new bar drinking, have fun, drive safe, call a cab, that type of stuff. All right, cool. That caught up with the super chats there. Shit, I wanted to mention something somebody said in the chat. Now I missed it or I lost it. Shit, lost it. I had something to say. I don't know. It'll come to me. Anyway, let's talk about, well, what the hell should we talk about first? Let's talk about AEW Dynamite this past week because we watched it together. Thank you to everyone who was here this past Wednesday watching Big Business with us. I wanted to do a live watch along with this one to see the debut of Mercedes Moné, see how she looked, see what she was going to do, and how she was going to be involved right out of the gate. Now, Dynamite this week, I did not get the exact rating, but it was just over 800,000 for the rating. So I feel like many were considering that a disappointment. That's right in line with their average. AEW is just that 800 to a million pretty much every week. Sometimes they go above it, sometimes they go below it, but they are so incredibly consistent with their ratings. I don't really even look at the ratings much, but I think even they were expecting a little bit of a boost, maybe even a million viewers for the debut of Mercedes Moné, and it did spark a lot of maybe not so much hardcore debate, but fans wondering out loud if maybe advertising this one would have been the way to go. Now, I kind of liked the way they did this, but I'm speaking from the perspective of a wrestling fan who follows everything. So naturally, I know, and we all know, that Mercedes is going to be there. They are not being shy about it. They pretty much were advertising her. So I saw a lot of people, oh, they should have advertised her. They would have got a bigger number. I'm like, I don't know what else they had to say other than sticking her face right on there, but she's not as big of a name as CM Punk. So I was never expecting her debut to be what Punk did at Rampage. Not even close. I was not expecting it to be that big of a debut. I hope AEW wasn't expecting that because that wasn't going to happen, but I still thought it was going to be a really fun debut, and I was excited to see how they brought her in. And if she was going to start some shit right off the bat, and it was going to be more than just a promo. So the fact that it was in Boston with the S and the dollar sign and all of that, I mean, what else could you say? Plus all the internet reports confirming, that she is signed with AEW. Even some of her media appearances, she was not denying it. She was basically saying that she is also going to AEW, but maybe if they would have just promoted the shit out of it for a couple of weeks, that might have helped. And you know what? That might be true. People might be true who think that. Personally, I didn't mind just kind of knowing, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that she's going to be there. I do like that, but they may have benefited a little bit from advertising her. At the end of the day, I didn't care, but if the advertising would have increase their rating, and then AEW determines this, after the fact, maybe the next time they have this situation, they will actually advertise. But, I also feel like it's still a big night for AEW, and this whole last few weeks have been huge for them. I mean, this is WrestleMania season. This is WWE's time to shine, and AEW, right in the middle of WWE's WrestleMania season, have signed 3 of the best free agents to be available at the same time ever in the history of wrestling, and they landed them all in Okada and Ospreay and Mercedes. So the fact that all 3 of them were coming in, I think is great. Like I said, I've loved, Okada going heel. Ospreay, I just see this guy immediately top star potential in him. And now Mercedes is there. And to see her in a new environment, new name, I was going to be looking forward to this. So of course, she opened up the show. And I said that she better, if they're going to have one of these shows where they're going to announce her without announcing her, she kind of has to open the show. Otherwise, you're going to be accused of stringing people along for ratings and whatnot. I feel like if you're going to have one of these type of shows where you're not going to say it, but you're going to say it, you have to open with that person. And then they did. She comes out, and I was complaining all week about not wanting to hear that crisscross music that she uses. Moné. I am so sick. I don't want to say sick of it. I'm so grossed out by it. I hate the song. I have an irrational dislike for it. I'm probably too hard on the song. It just sounded so bad to me. So I did not want her to use that. And she came out to brand new music. Looks like AEW has created her this CEO theme, which starts off kind of prompting the fans to chant CEO. I think she's rapping in it. I didn't even really get a good listen of the song. I think I was just happy to hear the song because it was not the Moné one, because I hate that one. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet. I hate that song. So I was very happy to hear a new song, and I think I was so happy to hear a new song, I didn't even care if it was good or bad. So you let me know how that CEO song is. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just okay? Is it meh? Whatever. All I can tell you is I like it a lot more than the previous one. So she comes out, big grand entrance. She's got her hair and CEO and All Elite written in the hair. And she opens up with a big promo, thanking all of the fans for sticking with her, reflecting on her career, her life, some of her favorites and heroes like Eddie Guerrero, and talked about the main event of that night. And she said tonight's main event is going to be the women, Willow Nightingale and Riho. And I'm like, wow, that's going to be the main event. We have an AEW title match on this show, Joe versus Wardlow. So if that's not the main event and Willow and Riho is, that tells me that Mercedes is going to be bookending this show. She's going to open it and close it. And of course, she lost to Willow a few months back prior to her injury. I think she dropped the New Japan Strong title to her. Is that the one that she lost to Willow there? So they already have history. She alluded to that history, and she mentioned their match later. So we kind of had a feeling we would see her come out later, which we did. Also, should be noted that she's had some friends attending the show up there, nowhere to be seen in a little press box somewhere, I think. WWE's Bayley, Naomi, and Tamina all showed up to support Mercedes. I thought that was awesome. They released a little social media video of the three of them putting on like masks and disguises, they were lip syncing some song. I thought it was pretty funny. And I thought it was cool that they were up there to support her. Not a big surprise. They went all the way to Japan to support her for her debut there. And I also think it's cool that WWE's cool with them doing that. Like, look, just don't be on camera. And if you want to go quietly, sit up in a box somewhere, the fact that, they are cool with them doing that and with allowing, Luger and whatnot and people with Hall of Fame Legends deals to go to Sting's retirement. I like that. I wish there would be a little bit more of that. I think it would be really cool if AEW would allow Dustin to be there for Cody's big win. Something like that. But again, he'd have to be shown on camera where these ladies were not. Something like that. Maybe some talent trade. I've been dying for AEW and WWE to have some sort of an agreement like that. We've seen little bits of it. Jericho did the Broken Skull sessions when John Cena had his celebration, the Big Show. Jericho, Danielson all sent in videos for that. Billy Gunn was allowed to do the Hall of Fame. What else did we see? We know that, Bayley and them were in the crowd there. And I think there might have been another example of, just not necessarily cooperation, but one company being okay with another talent going there. I think Ricky Starks came to the Royal Rumble, right? I think he did get in trouble for that. But like little instances like that are nice to know that can be allowed when you have these friendships and these people that want to support each other, because I don't know if you fans notice, the wrestlers don't play into this tribal shit. That's all y'all, or not y'all. We're cool here, but that's all those fucking other people with the 2 mile line timelines of shitting on AEW and posting their hard cam pics because they have nothing better to live for and they live for this tribal bullshit. This is the fans climbing up each other's asses. The wrestlers support each other. The wrestlers are happy to see each other succeed. I remember watching AEW stars tweet during Cody's WrestleMania debut at WrestleMania 38 a couple of years ago. Aubrey Edwards talking about how cool this was. People are happy to see their friends succeed, happy to see their friends doing things they want to do. There's no tribalism there. These are professionals supporting professionals, where the tribalism is idiots yelling at idiots, and it's just not the same universe. So I think it's very cool that they were all there to support Mercedes. And it would be cool if Dustin could be at WrestleMania. I think, Dustin being there would be awesome to be involved, but, him just being there to witness it for Cody, I'm sure AEW would allow him to do that, as long as he's not visible on camera. But it would also be cool if a little phone call was made, or if Dustin was like, Tony Khan, what would be the harm, if I just was at WrestleMania ringside, and maybe I'd punch The Rock or something. I don't know. I mean, he was in The Rock's first match at Survivor Series in 1996. It would be very cool if Dustin could somehow work that out, but that might be a tall order. But just having, friends showing up other places to support other friends, even if they're not on camera, it's still kind of cool to see, because you never really saw that in WWE. You didn't see Shawn Michaels and Triple H up in the box watching the NWO debut. Yeah, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall for life. We never saw any of that. So this was kind of cool to see. I liked it a lot. And of course, on Dynamite, the main event was Willow defeating Riho in a really good main event. I got to say, they had a lot of pressure on them. Riho has been to the dance before, but, Willow, Dynamite main event for her, and this was a pretty kick-ass match, and it was good, and she beat Riho, put her down. At the end of the match, she's then attacked by Julia Hart and Sky Blue. So you knew what was happening there. I mean, I knew that Mercedes was going to get involved in this match somehow. Once we got the finish, Willow gets jumped, and then it was just a matter of waiting. for the CEO to come out, which she did. This time, she's out in her ring gear. The first time, she was just out in an outfit. She looked great, cutting her promo. Now she hit the ring to save Willow, wearing some new ring gear, which just looked incredible. Black and white type of stuff, and she looked really good. She came in and beat up Sky Blue and what's-her-face? Julia Hart hit Julia with her finisher thing, which I think that move looks good on some women who can take it, maybe not so good on others. And, saved Willow, and then Willow kind of left Mercedes alone in the ring, and she kind of just did her little Sasha Banks dance and went around the crowd and, touched hands with everybody and just kind of did her little Sasha dance as the show went off the air. So it was a lot of Mercedes to open and close. Big business, and it looks like her first order of business will be taking on Willow Nightingale, where she will obviously get her win back, and I would think that match would probably take place, at least I hope it will, at AEW Dynasty. It will be nice to get some other women's matches on the card that aren't involved with the championship. So Mercedes and Willow should be added to Dynasty. Hopefully it will, and hopefully that will be made official next week or this week on Dynamite. We also had the AEW World Title match, which was the first match on the show, I believe, and Samoa Joe did, in fact, beat Wardlow. I was thinking we would see lots of Undisputed Kingdom, maybe even a return of MJF. None of that happened. Samoa Joe just choked out Wardlow and beat him and retained the title. I like that a lot. After Joe won, Swerve came down to the ring to try to get in Joe's face, but he just smiles and walks away. And I would assume that we are going to get it made official this week as well. Swerve Strickland versus Joe for the title at Dynasty. That's at least what I'm expecting, even though we haven't had it announced yet. We also had a great six-man match, the Elite defeating Eddie Kingston, a returning Pac, and Penta. This was a lot of fun. Okada, great heel. He got the win for his team here after a low blow to Eddie Kingston, followed by a Rainmaker for the win. And again, I would assume at Dynasty, it's going to be Okada versus Kingston, and Okada is going to beat Eddie for those championships. Also, prior to that match, earlier on in the day, the Elite were interviewed by Alex Marvez, I guess at the hotel, and I think it's Matt's birthday. It's one of their 40th birthdays, or one of them fuckers. It was their birthday. I think it was Matthew's birthday. And Okada says to Marvez, "You going to wish Matthew happy birthday?" And he's like, yeah, happy birthday. And Okada goes, no. And he puts his arm around him, or he looks right at him and he goes, sing it. Sing it, or I'm going to Rainmaker your ass right here in the lobby of this fucking hotel. And so he then starts singing happy birthday, and they have to cut it. And to watch Okada say, no, sing it. And then as he starts singing, Okada just smiles and looks off into the distance as he listens to the song. I did not know I needed heel Okada in my life, but I do. He's tremendous. He is tremendous. He really adds to this. I love him in this role, and I am pleasantly surprised with how he is used, because one thing about Okada that I was a little bit worried about is he's almost too good for his own good, because we've seen unbelievable, unable to be topped matches in New Japan with Okada and Kenny and a lot of people, right? I mean, this guy has been the best wrestler in the world outside of the WWE's bubble for years now. So coming in and having great matches isn't new. It's not new. We know he can do that. We know he can do that probably better than most people in the business currently today. So if he just comes on and has great matches, okay, fine, that's awesome. I'm a wrestling fan. I like great matches. I don't know about you guys, but I prefer great matches over bad ones. I don't know how most fans feel, but I find that wrestling's more enjoyable with the good matches. But even as good as he is, it's still nothing new. This guy can just go in there, fucking constipated and have a good match. It's not hard for him. And it wouldn't be anything that we haven't seen before. So having him kind of go heel here and immediately not only align himself with someone, but find an opponent to target, an opponent who's a champion currently in the company, and just the way he kind of interacts with these douchebag bucks, is perfect. So far, this whole fucking thing is money. And of course, with the Bucks, the EVPs, we got EVPs and CEOs now in AEW. And with the Bucks suspending Hangman and firing Kenny Omega, you know they're going to be coming back. And I think a Okada and Kenny Omega match, maybe for that Continental Crown title, could all but be a lock for All In. I think that would be fucking great. So we will see how that goes. Like I said earlier, too, we did have that really fun match between Jay White and Darby Allin. Darby Allin is still recovering from the crazy bump he took at Revolution in Sting's last match, and he was bandaged up a lot. You could still see a lot of holes and scars on his back from all of that glass. And I was looking forward to the match with Jay White because we have not seen this one before. And it was good, maybe not as great as I was hoping it would be, but Darby Allin, you certainly wouldn't know he was injured by watching him wrestle in this thing because he was all over the ring as always. And the finish of the match was basically him trying to hit a coffin drop onto Jay White, who's laying on the apron. Jay White moves. Darby just flat back bumps, all 140 fucking pounds of him, takes a flat back bump on the apron, which when I Googled ring apron and I went to the ring apron's Wikipedia page, buried deep in all of the facts about the ring apron, I found a really interesting one. Apparently it's the hardest part of the ring. And I don't even know if that's been reported before, but I kind of discovered that yesterday when I was researching ring aprons, and it said that it was the hardest part of the ring. I'm like, holy shit, that means that bump that Darby Allin took on Wednesday must have really hurt. And he hit the ring apron, he fell off, and then he tries to climb back in the ring to beat the count, and he's immediately met with a switchblade for the win, and Jay White puts down Darby Allin. And somewhere in the last 2 to 3 minutes of that match, Darby Allin breaks his foot. Now, I went back and watched it back, and he was moving around fine on the foot, and the only time I notice him favoring the foot is when he tries to beat the count back into the ring. So I did not catch where the foot break happened, but it might have happened on the coffin drop, and maybe his foot landed funny on that ring apron, which again, just to recap, is apparently the hardest part of that entire ring is right there on that ring apron. If you need me to explain that to you again, let me know and I will. So Dynamite, big business, I thought was a decent show. I think they're a little bit disappointed, obviously, about the rating. In terms of Mercedes' debut, all I can really say about it, I think, is that I'm satisfied with it. Maybe, she didn't come in and go right after Timeless Tony Storm or do some sort of major swerve or heel turn or anything like that or shock us in any way. Seems like a, kind of a slow beginning, but not that slow. A lot of times, some of these debuts, all you're going to get is a promo, and then that's it, and they're going to give us small doses of Mercedes. But here, at least, we saw her twice. She opened the show. She closed the show. She welcomed herself and was welcome to AEW in her, initial promo there. And then she kind of half-assed targeted, or at least let us know who her first opponent is going to be at the end of the show. So I can't sit here and say that they didn't do anything with her, because they did. They did. She came in, she said hello, she got her big hero's welcome. She, kind of hinted at a future match with Willow. They have a pay-per-view on the horizon. Seems pretty spelled out to me. So I guess I wouldn't really deem it a disappointment. I may just say it's average. Like in terms of a Mercedes Moné debut, if I were to envision it in my head before it happened, this seems to be in line with my excitement level. Because I like Mercedes a lot. She's not my favorite wrestler or anything, never has been, but I like her. And I really loved Sasha Banks in WWE. Some of those matches she had, right out of the gate, out of NXT on the main roster, some of those matches she was having with Charlotte and the Hell in the Cell match and her Bayley feuds. And she's great. She is great. So I really hope that she can have some good matches and develop herself a really good run here in the company. And I think she's got a lot of interesting talent to work with. So we wish her the best. I think her involvement in the women's division can only help it. And you still have people like Thunder Rosa, who's only been used on Collision lately. Britt Baker is still AWOL. You still have some good talent that can still come back in and really round out this division. It's all just about putting it together. Most of AEW's issues doesn't lie with the talent itself. When you look at the talent, men and women on paper in AEW, they are strong. WWE might be miles ahead of them in overall business and company size, but they are way more equal, in terms of the talent roster. But you can have all the great talent you want, if you can't write or produce compelling TV with them, then what good is it? So hopefully she will be there and she will do great things. And that women's division will just continue to improve and to grow and hopefully be a good attraction for other women's wrestlers who are out there. Places to work. That's what it's all about. So here's what we have, at least I think, for AEW Dynasty coming up next month. The only, I think, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, the only match I have confirmed is Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. Now, Ospreay did cut a promo on Dynamite as well. I didn't mention it. No point in it. But he is going to be taking on Danielson at Dynasty. That's going to be fucking great. We're also going to have that tag team tournament final, which I believe is going to be Young Bucks and FTR. I don't know how you have them on opposite sides of the bracket and you don't do that match. So it feels like that will be the final there. I also feel like we're going to get Mercedes versus Willow. I feel like that will come to be next week on Dynamite. I also feel like we're going to get Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland announced as well. And also Kazuchika Okada and Eddie Kingston. So that's the 5 matches I can sniff out, at least, right now for Dynasty. But we know AEW's pay-per-views have a lot more than 5 matches on them. So we have more to add. Hopefully they'll add that 6-man unification. They got to do that with those trios belts because that Bang Bang Scissor Gang shit is, I think it might have already kind of ended now. So we need to just book a match and get those titles unified. So maybe you can stick that on Dynasty as well. And we're getting close to time to start talking about the Owen Hart tournament again, aren't we? So I feel like that's got to be coming up at some point. So a lot going on with AEW coming up in the next couple of months as well. All right, before we get into SmackDown, The Rock, Cody, and WrestleMania, and Cody's mom, and The Rock's new heel theme, before we get into that, let me knock out a couple of more supers that's coming in. We got a couple more. We've got JJ, the OG. JJ Leg, thanks for that $2. Just bought your tickets yesterday for Dynasty. That's awesome. You're going to Dynasty. JJ, you might well see an AEW title change. That could be where Swerve wins the title. I was adamant that he would not win it at Revolution, but now it feels like at any point now you can start talking about it. Next time he gets a title shot, I think it's reasonable to start saying, okay, this should be where he does it. So I feel like you likely could see a big title change on that show. Good for you, man. Alex Dredge, thank you, man. Good to see you back. Thanks for the $5 there. Hey, Greg, I know it's not much, but wanted to drop in and say hi. I can't wait for your WrestleMania coverage. Hope you and your family are doing well. Always great to see you, Alex. As long as you're here, you don't have to send anything, man. I'm just happy to see you. Glad you are looking forward to WrestleMania coverage. It's going to be a week on the channel. A lot of festivities. And like I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, stay tuned in the next several days. Within the next week, I'm going to start putting up links to everything we're going to be doing for that week in terms of our live streaming content. So lots going on, Alex. Always good to see you here. The Juliet is here with $5 and gifting out a Good Mic Work Commentaries membership to Jay Lambo. Like I said earlier, thank you to all of the channel members for the first time ever on the channel. We are over 100 members, and that is awesome. Maybe our next target goal could be 150. So tell your friends and please sign up. We have a new one here in Jay Lambo, courtesy of the Juliet, and she has also dropped in $5 for us. Broken foot may have saved Darby's life. No Everest for him this year. Also, Damian Priest was the one who got crowd to boo Dom at his wedding. That's awesome. I forgot to mention that when we talked about Dominic and Rhea Ripley, a.k.a. Marie, their wedding. When the crowd was booing Dominic, I thought that was fucking great. And of course, he danced with his aunt, who people were mistaking for his mom, but that's really his mom's twin sister. And Rey Mysterio and Angie were not invited because they're deadbeat pieces of shit. And Dominic would never invite his parents to his wedding. So him and Rhea Ripley had a nice wedding, and Damian Priest was one hell of a best man. Sounded like a blast. And thanks for that, Juliet, as always, for dropping in and making it rain with the memberships. Zach Goller is here. My friend Zach, what's up, boy? Good to see you. Happy you're here. Appreciate the $5 from you. AEW pay-per-views need to have like 32 to 33 matches to give the fans their money's worth, right? 32 to 33 matches. That'd be like a 72-hour card. That would be fun. We could try it one day. Nothing will beat that 10-hour 23 match card back in 1994. where Bull Nakano beat Alundra Blaze for the title. That was a card. All right, we got to talk about SmackDown. We have to talk about The Rock. So, for the third week in a row, The Rock kind of does this double duty thing with his promo. We get the full, uncensored, profanity-laced director's cut promo on social media. Then we get the toned-down version on SmackDown. He did this for the past 3 weeks. This week, he was live from his gym. He posted about an 8-minute shit-talking video on Cody, on his mom, and you knew, and we knew, on Monday when we saw Cody crying in that promo, I'm like, oh, fuck. He is going to get torn to shreds by The Rock, and I'm worried about the Codester. So we knew we were going to get a response to that. And Rock does it, runs to his mom. He gives his belt to his mommy. Oh, shut the fuck up. So Rock can just drop F-bombs. I don't know where I read this report, so I can't credit the person, but I saw it floating around out there that apparently some talent might be, Rock might be rubbing them the wrong way because they all have to adhere to the PG guidelines and he can do whatever he wants. Yeah. You're surprised by that? He's The Rock. He's on the board. He's the biggest movie star of all time. He can get away with anything. When you're the biggest movie star of all time, then you can bend the rules too. But I think that's funny that, well, he doesn't have to listen to the rules because he's The Rock. There's your answer. Is it fair? No, because he's The Rock. Live with it. Life's unfair. So I just kind of chuckled at that because if any wrestlers have a problem with what The Rock's doing, sorry, become The Rock and then you can do it too. That's my advice. But The Rock had his social media promo as always, and then he opened up the show. So no Roman on the show tonight, but just The Rock, and he was pretty much out there without the bloodline, out there on his own. And of course, as we saw last week, and last week I'd given up on it. We talked about it in the podcast. I said, I guess we're not going to get the heel Rock theme because last week we got a new entrance for him that has this like lightning bolt effect, but it's still his old theme. And so I was like, well, I guess if they would have brought it back, we would have seen it by now, unless they're saving it for WrestleMania. I was kind of giving up on it. I'm like, the fact that they went through and made him a new theme or a new kind of entrance, I'm like, if they were going to debut a new theme, they would have just done it there. And so I don't know when this decision was made or if they thought about that last week. Oh, yeah, we should bring his Hollywood Rock theme back. I don't know. But he comes out there last night to his new lightning bolt theme and his regular song starts playing. And it plays for about 10 seconds and then fades out and transitions into his old Hollywood theme. And the crowd knew it and they responded to it. I was so happy. I love that theme. That theme, we did not get enough of that theme. How long did Hollywood Rock, heel Hollywood Rock in 2003 last? When did he even come back? Like February? He came back and worked with Hogan at like No Way Out. So he probably had it there. And then he worked Austin at WrestleMania, worked Goldberg at Backlash, and then he was gone. So if I do the math, I feel like we only got the Rock heel theme for 3 months, maybe 4 months at the most, and that was 21 years ago. And fans still remember something from 21 years ago that we only had for 90 days. And we've all wanted it back. And finally it returns last night. The heel theme was perfect. It fits him. It's great. I fucking loved it. Marked out. They're also in Memphis last night, by the way, which is kind of where The Rock got his start. And he brought up his history with Memphis. Now, his shtick has been to shit on whatever crowd he's in, calling them all crackheads and whatnot. And with Memphis, he kind of took it easy on him because of his history there, brought up Flex Kavana, his old gimmick from back in the day. And decided not to take a big, fat, steaming rock dump on top of the head of Memphis. So that was nice. So he showed them some respect. But it was also the return of not only the Rock's heel theme, but also the Rock concert. So the Rock concert is back. They alluded to this last week that we were going to get that. And so the Rock was back to sing again. This time he's got some musicians with him, a couple of musicians I don't know were out there. I think they were like standing on the announce table playing the music while The Rock went on to sing. I did not write down the lyrics of his song, but he sang about beating Seth and Cody upside the heads with his fanny pack and, of course, showed the infamous picture There was a Stardust reference in there. There was a reference to Becky being more popular than Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins and his goofy outfits being more embarrassing than Ja Morant holding a gun, Memphis player who got suspended for flashing a gun around, I guess. And then after his little song, he decided to refocus his energy back into a promo about Cody and Cody's mom. So now Rock's getting real personal. This all started at the WrestleMania kickoff with the family tree, and Ron, Cody, your grandfathers would be ashamed of you. And then, Rock's bringing up Cody's siblings, said Cody was an accident, mentioned Dusty a couple of times, shit on Cody's dog Pharaoh, and now finally we get to the mother. And now we get to Cody's mom. I think it would be fucking great and very possible. I think this is possible. I think it's possible that Cody and The Rock's mom are going to be sitting next to each other or very close to each other at WrestleMania. I think they should. I think they should sit there and hold hands together and share a beer. That'd be awesome. So, of course, on Raw, we saw Cody in the sit-down interview with Cole where he got very emotional talking about how Dusty's no longer here. He wanted to win the belt and hand it to Dusty, but he can't hand it to Dusty, but he can't hand it to Michelle Rubio, and really got choked up when he was talking about that, which he had to know. We had to know that The Rock was going to exploit that, which he did. And he talked about Cody wanting to hand the belt to his mommy, and his mommy, he does this little Rock voice, and then he's got the weight belt, and he said the only belt that he's going to be handing to his mommy is this one when I whip him with it, and he's going to whip Cody's ass and get Cody's blood all over this belt, and when the match is over, he's going to hand the belt covered in Cody's blood to his mom, who will then be crying, and just laid out this whole scene of just this gruesome scene of laying down the blood belt on Cody's mom's lap. And that's pretty fucking hardcore. And I like it. And I like that Cody's mom is getting involved in this. I think that's awesome. I definitely think she might need to slap the shit out of The Rock at WrestleMania. Maybe, I don't know. I also think, having Rock's mom and Cody's mom seated close to each other would be interesting, especially if Rock came over to get in Cody's mom's face, but then he sees his own mom sitting there. And maybe, we've kind of mentioned that maybe Rock is a double agent. It's all going to come out that him and Cody were in cahoots, and that's going to become apparent at night 2 when Rock turns on Roman Reigns. But I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Rock and Cody being in cahoots would work if maybe they weren't doing that night 1 match. Because now, if they're in cahoots, they're going to have to pretend to fight each other. They're going to have to pretend fight. That's going to be too weird. Where if they never had the match on night 1, then all of this could just be them, putting on a charade, putting on an act, pretending to shit on each other's families and really, really hate each other to fool Roman Reigns. But it's going to be tough to fool him in that night 1 tag match. So maybe the way to get Rock back into a babyface role, because they've been teasing a lot about Rock and Roman Reigns. We are getting that match. Are we getting it WrestleMania 41 next year? Maybe. We might even get it sooner. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they have it pegged for one of those Saudi Arabia shows. Otherwise, you wait another year, you do it at WrestleMania 41. It just depends on how far in the future that match is. But if they want Rock to leave this year's WrestleMania as a babyface, then he either needs to be in cahoots with Cody, or perhaps something happens in the match that maybe changes his mind. And like I said, all that shit talking The Rock is doing, maybe he'll have an act of good conscience finally if he does walk over to Cody's mom to talk a bunch of smack, but then doesn't realize that the company has sat his own mother right there. And if he's acting like a dick and he's yelling and screaming in an old lady's face, and he's doing that in front of his mama, maybe The Rock thinks better of it. Maybe that's what changes him. Let myself get away from myself or whatever. I let my own ego get the best of me. And right when I was about to do something stupid, and I was about to tarnish and slap the legacy of one of wrestling's greatest families, I look over and I see my own mother. And it made me realize that this is not who The Rock is. Something like that, So that could be fun. But the way The Rock was talking about Cody's mom in that promo, I don't see how we don't have an incensed Cody Rhodes on Monday night. He doesn't have to scream and yell and eyes bulge out of his head, but I need to hear something from him that indicates that this guy is not playing games. I want this guy to live up to his nickname. He's going to be a true American fucking nightmare for not only The Rock, but the entire bloodline. And I want him out for blood. And I want The Rock's blood to be spilled, not his. And I think that this is all going to make Cody look very good when he does win the championship at WrestleMania 40. I think they're really setting all of that up, making The Rock out to be the biggest douchebag fucking imaginable. And I also think that they are going to beat Cody and Seth on night one. I think they have to. I think they have to win on night one in order to make that match on night two Bloodline rules so they can overbook the shit out of it. And then you can do all sorts of stuff there. So I feel like all of the stuff they're doing, this ride they're going to take you on is going to culminate, and your destination is going to be Cody winning the championship and celebrating and finishing his story. I've never been more confident in that than I am today. Maybe that'll change in the next couple of weeks as we get closer, but where we sit right now, based on everything Rock's doing, the work he's putting in, the story he's telling, everything they're throwing in front of Cody, the personal nature of these verbal attacks on Cody, how can this guy go into WrestleMania and fucking lose? He's not gonna. He's gonna win. He's gonna win this time. Sorry, fans who think Roman really should retain. Fuck off. Off is the direction you can fuck. Cody's winning. So I like that. And the more personal it gets, just the more sweet it's going to be for Cody. But, Cody still has to, I hope there's not any underhanded sabotaging going on. I hope they're purposely not trying to make Cody look bad, because I do think it is crucial for Cody to respond appropriately on Monday night. He can't just come out there and have another one of his Cody promos in a suit. He's got to be like, all right, Rock, you stepped over a line now. Obviously, I can't do anything to you because you're not here. But let me tell you, you're going to be dealing with a Cody that you have never seen before, and maybe even try to attack him next time. Rock, I don't think, is scheduled for SmackDown next week. Just Roman is. So Rock's now going to leave TV for a couple of weeks, not allowing Cody the opportunity. So maybe Cody comes into SmackDown and just attacks the bloodline, and maybe fucks up Solo Sikoa or something. Solo currently does not have a match at WrestleMania. What I would do if I was Cody and I was WWE, I would have Cody jump the bloodline and maybe injure Solo Sikoa, put him out of action or something like that. And then maybe he returns at WrestleMania in a run-in, but maybe Cody thinks he's knocked him out. Cody said he's going to be hunting the bloodline, so he should try to eliminate them ahead of WrestleMania, injure them so they can't interfere. Solo hit him with that spike last year. If you break Solo's leg, he ain't hitting you with the spike this year. So maybe that's going to be Cody's way of getting revenge on The Rock. Rock's going to talk about his mom and then leave TV, leaving the bloodline to deal with a very, very pissed off, angry, and enraged Cody Rhodes, putting them at danger, and now they've lost a team member, all because of The Rock's mouth. And that could continue the dissension between The Rock and Roman Reigns that we know will implode either at WrestleMania or shortly after that, especially when Roman Reigns loses the title. Because the way I would do it is I would have Rock pin Cody in that night one tag match, and then Cody beat Roman on night two. And that way The Rock's like, I'm the one who beat Cody. You lost to him, so just adding to that. So there's a lot of ways that you can drive that wedge into the bloodline. But I do think it's interesting that The Rock did make these very specific comments about Cody's mom right before he's about to bounce out of TV for 2 weeks. He's probably going to miss next week's SmackDown and then be back the week after. That would be my guess, even though I don't think any of this is announced. So with The Rock being gone, that does open up the bloodline to vulnerability, and Cody could take advantage of that and take one of them out. We'll see if that happens or not. But good stuff from The Rock last night on SmackDown. Typical stuff. Rock is very dominating on the show when he's on there. So more good stuff from The Rock. And like I said, props to him. He's made this whole WrestleMania weekend very much about himself and his family. But at the same time, really going all out, I think, to help tell Cody's story. And as long as they write Cody some strong verbiage on Monday and he comes back strong here, I think this is only going to add to Cody's moment when he does win at WrestleMania. But Rock might need to pump the brakes a little bit on some of this stuff. we will see. So SmackDown is also doing some of those ladder match qualifiers. So we had a couple of matches on SmackDown last night. The winner of these matches, I think, face each other next week, and then the winner of that enters the six-pack match, I think is what they were trying to tell us here. I think it's confusing. But anyway, Humberto Carrillo and Garza defeated Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde in a ladder match qualifier. And then later on, we had Catch Republic defeating Pretty Deadly in another ladder match qualifier. So next week, we'll get Legado del Fantasma versus Catch Republic. And the winner of that, I guess, qualifies for the six-pack ladder match at WrestleMania. But I still think 2 teams from SmackDown need to qualify. I think Raw gets 3 teams, SmackDown gets 2. And then, of course, you have the champions rounding out the 6 teams, I think, is what the rules are. So I'm guessing we're going to get another one of these series of matches. I hate when they do this. Just tell us who's in it and skip the nonsense. So that's what's going on. I feel, though, next week, Legado del Fantasma and Catch Republic, I think Catch Republic should win. And Legado del Fantasma either gets in later or something else happens with them, because they're going to have a lot going on next week because of what we would see later. Now, after that, we had LA Knight promo on the stage, just on the set there, calling out AJ Styles. Says AJ flew all the way to Australia to attack him, but couldn't drive his keister to Memphis to answer his challenge or to respond to him. So he basically challenges him to his Mania match there. He said, since you won't show up here, I know a show that you can't help but to show up at, WrestleMania. LA Knight versus AJ, challenges him right there. That's when AJ Styles attacks with a chair, hits LA Knight from behind, takes him out, and accepts the challenge for WrestleMania on the mic. So now that's official. LA Knight, AJ Styles. We had a feeling that's where that was going. Oh, I loved this. Next up, we had a interview with the Bloodline. Kayla Braxton catches up with them as they're arriving to the arena in the back. And Paul Heyman kind of starts to talk, I believe, and then Jimmy Uso just barges right into frame. And he's right in the camera, takes over everything. Everybody else is in the background now. And it's just all about Jimmy. And he cuts a terrific promo on his brother. I just feel like Jay is just the more colorful, flashy brother. I forget that Jimmy's good too. You know, he's really good. And this instantly sold me on the match. And I didn't think it was Jimmy was going to be the one selling me on it. I thought it was going to be Jay, watching his story unfold over the past, 3 years now, watching him change and grow as not only a performer, but a wrestler, now into single star main event Jay. He's had some big matches. He's over with the audience. He's got his catchphrase. He's been doing great shit. And Jimmy is almost like an afterthought in this. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now I really feel like this is... I felt like that promo was so good that if I was watching wrestling with someone who didn't watch wrestling, they might kind of be intrigued by that match now. If I would have been like, yeah, that guy he's talking to, there's 2 of those guys. There's another one that looks just fucking like him on the other show, and they're going to be wrestling each other. Holy shit. It's like that Spider-Man meme where they hold the gun at each other or whatever. You guys know the one I'm talking about. So that was really good. I really enjoyed that Jimmy Uso promo. Loved it. So I'm looking forward to Jimmy and Jay. That was, of course, Jimmy's acceptance of the challenge. So that match is now official as well. We got another match official too after this next encounter between Randy Orton and Grayson Waller. So Randy Orton's taking on Grayson Waller one-on-one. Logan Paul is on the show last night. He is doing guest commentary for this match. Randy Orton wins with an RKO. Austin Theory, who of course was at ringside for Grayson Waller, he comes in to attack Randy Orton from behind. Kevin Owens comes in to make the save, and Logan Paul and Austin Theory kind of leave the ring area. And that's when Nick Aldis comes out to tell Logan Paul, not before, I think, Theory ran back in to get a stunner and RKO combo. So, of course, Theory had to go back in and get him some more, which he did. And that's when Nick Aldis came out and said, oh, good, I'm glad you're here, Logan Paul, because I've decided who your WrestleMania opponent is. And then Logan starts smiling. And then Aldis goes, wait a minute, I misspoke. I've decided who your WrestleMania opponents are. You're going to be defending the United States title against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens in a triple threat match. So, couple of things to mention here. Number one, that's good because I was worried about Kevin Owens being left out in the cold here. I felt like his issue with Logan Paul was not over yet. It was still continuing going into Elimination Chamber. But then Logan Paul had that whole thing with Randy Orton at the end of that match that made me think, oh, that's going to be our WrestleMania match. I never considered that they'd actually do a fucking triple threat, which is probably the best way to do it, because what this means now is that Logan Paul can retain. Because if he was going to face either one of these guys one-on-one, I feel like he'd have to lose. But then again, he's already lost last year. Logan Paul's lost a lot of WrestleMania matches, or lost a lot of big matches already in WWE. He's due for a victory at some point. He needs to win something. Obviously, he won the U.S. title, but he needs another big victory, I think. And I think if he would have gone in there one-on-one against Randy Orton, it would have been too predictable. I don't know how you would put, well, I guess you could put, that would be a hell of a victory, Logan Paul over Randy Orton. But maybe doing that would have been tough to envision, but it would have been a big win for Logan Paul, especially at this stage of Randy's career. To put over Logan Paul, it wouldn't have done any harm, but it would still be hard to envision WWE doing that. Well, now in a triple threat, you can have Logan Paul retain. And why I think that's a good thing, because the thing is, I wouldn't want to see Randy Orton or Kevin Owens win the United States title unless it was one-on-one. I don't really want to see either one of these guys win it in a triple threat environment. The fun is watching Logan Paul get beat. So what's going to happen here is Logan Paul's going to retain. Why that's good news is because that means LA Knight can then beat him for the title. Now, we thought LA Knight and Logan Paul was a match we were going to see this year at WrestleMania, but Logan was doing his thing with Kevin Owens, and then he began his thing with Randy Orton. I'm hoping that when he comes out of this match as the winner, that might spark a feud between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Logan Paul might get out of that match unscathed. Owens and Orton might blame each other for the loss, thus resulting in a program between those two. LA Knight puts down AJ Styles clean at WrestleMania, and now you got Logan Paul free and clear. LA Knight's resolved his issue with AJ Styles, and boom, there's your Backlash match or whatever the fuck. So I hope that that's what this all means. So I think the triple threat announcement, it's predictable, but it's good predictable because Logan Paul retaining the title is actually okay. It's all about when the best place to drop it. Here would have been fine if he was one-on-one against one of these guys, but I think he's going to retain, keep the belt, and drop it maybe at the next big show one-on-one to somebody. So that was big news coming out of that match. Also, we had more big news, kind of. We had Santos Escobar defeating Dragon Lee. Now, there's a post-match beatdown after the match where Carlito runs in, but he gets taken out. And then Mysterio runs in and attacks Santos, runs him off, and then gets on the mic and challenges him, not at WrestleMania, but to a match next week on SmackDown. So Santos, I think, agrees because they basically announced this match for next week, Rey Mysterio versus Santos. But we also have the rest of Legado del Fantasma involved in a pretty big tag match next week as well. I feel like something's going to happen. I feel like they're going to have to either run this back at WrestleMania or they don't get the match off at all. Maybe it's a pre-match beatdown. Rey gets attacked in the aisleway. And then Aldis comes out and says, that's it. I'm booking this match for WrestleMania. It's probably going to be something like that because I think Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio needs to be on the WrestleMania card. Based on everything they built between these two for months, that's where I'd put the match. So to do it on SmackDown 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of WrestleMania seems weird. I feel like whatever happens next week leads to the official announcement of this match taking place at Mania. And since Rey won last year against Dominic, something tells me he might put over Santos if he does face him at WrestleMania. Maybe that's why this match is happening now. Maybe that might be what they're doing. If Rey and Santos was going to face at WrestleMania, I feel like Santos should win. You get more mileage out of a Santos victory, I feel like. So maybe what you do is you have the match next week and Rey wins, but maybe, Rey gets a assistance from, LWO or something happens and Santos is pissed and demands a rematch at WrestleMania, and that's where he gets his victory. So that could happen too. So I feel like we're either not going to get the match next week or Rey is going to win in such a way that books a rematch for WrestleMania. If it's the other way around, if Santos gets some shady victory and then they book a rematch, then it might be Rey winning. But I feel like Santos should beat Rey and Rey should put him over at WrestleMania. That's my thought on things anyway. In the main event of last night's SmackDown, okay match, Dakota Kai back in the ring. Good to see her back in there taking on Bayley. And we had a DQ finish here where all of Damage Control was threatening to get in this thing the whole time. And there's a couple of them in the ring. And then finally, I think it was EO who attacked Bayley, and then ref called for the bell, and Damage Control just put the boots to Bayley. Naomi tries to run in, but she gets taken out. And they gave Io Sky gave Bayley a really gnarly moonsault. Damage Control kind of like lifted up Bayley by her arms and legs to lift her up off the mat for Io Sky to hit the moonsault, but she kind of misdirected and landed on Bayley's face a little bit. Did not look good, but Bayley appeared to be fine. Crowd was chanting for Bianca, but we got no Bianca. Bianca also made it known, I think it was last week, that she doesn't have any sympathy for Bayley in terms of what's going on with her and didn't really care about what she's dealing with. So maybe she was going to have a change of heart here and run out, but we didn't see her. I don't think we saw her on the show at all, and we are getting close to WrestleMania, and we still don't have a match for her yet. Now, they've kind of half-assed teased maybe a possibility of Bianca teaming up with Jade Cargill to take on the Kabukis. I really hope the Kabukis have a tag team title match at WrestleMania. If they do, it feels like we're running out of options. I feel like it's either going to have to be Bianca and Naomi against the Kabukis, or they could still bring Jade in. I think at this point, maybe Jade and Bianca, it would be hard to really force that together at this point. At least with Bianca and Naomi, they've shared screen time already just last week where they kind of talked about Bayley and her situation. Maybe on TV, Naomi convinces Bianca to join her and challenge the Kabuki Warriors for the tag team titles. And then maybe that helps get Bianca warming up to Bayley a little bit more, and maybe they can play a role in the world title match at Mania. Who knows? But I feel like Bianca's going to have to get involved here with Bayley and Naomi. I don't know what else she's going to do. I don't know what one-on-one match there would be to set up with her. The Jade thing doesn't feel like it's really likely with WrestleMania really coming up here soon. They'd have to throw a lot of that together last minute with very few teases to that other than that one Royal Rumble little spot that they did. And I thought if Bianca and Jade were going to do anything associated with each other at all at WrestleMania, some seeds would have had to be planted for that last night, and we didn't see any of that. So I feel like Bianca needs to be involved at WrestleMania. Weeks and weeks ago, this is probably even like January or February at some point, I mentioned Bianca Belair hosting WrestleMania. I said, look, if there's nothing else for her to do, she's not in the title picture right now, she'd be a great host. She already has a reality show. She's awesome. To give her something to do. It's not uncommon. We have The Miz and Alexa Bliss and wrestlers have hosted before. The New Day hosted. So, if the New Day hosted and Alexa Bliss hosted and The Miz hosted, why would Bianca be disqualified from hosting? Some fans might feel like it's a waste. Oh, she needs a WrestleMania match. Yeah, maybe. But I think she might be more remembered as the host of WrestleMania 40 than having an undercard, mid-card match that's not even for a championship. Like if they put her in there against anybody, really. I don't know who they'd even put her in there with at this point that would be a more memorable of a spot on the card than a guest host. Even if she teamed up with Naomi and faced the Kabukis, I kind of feel like the Kabukis should retain in that scenario. I mean, Bianca faced Asuka last year and beat her. This would be a perfect opportunity for Bianca to lose a WrestleMania match without not even being pinned. Just beat Naomi. That's all you have to do. And I think that if Bianca Belair hosted WrestleMania, that would be more memorable than a tag team title loss. So it's not always, oh, you're wasting her, you can put her in a match. I'm like, fine, you can put her in a match, but we're not even going to remember the match in 2 years, where you might remember the fact that she hosted the show. So I feel like it's got to be a tag team thing at this point against the Kabukis, probably teaming up with Naomi. And whatever they do with Bianca, they better start setting that shit up. Also, curious if they're going to book anything for Mania with like Lashley against Cross and all of that. I don't want to see Lashley left off either after that fiasco last year with the Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy. So here's what we got for WrestleMania. By the way, new start time apparently going forward for WrestleMania and all future PLEs of 7 p.m. Eastern. So 7 Eastern. You know, if memory serves, I think that's what time they used to start. Back in the Attitude Era, I thought those pay-per-views always started at 7. I could be wrong. I thought they did. But going back to 7 Eastern now, that's going to be 4 o'clock for me now, Pacific. That's when WrestleMania starts, both of those days, and apparently that will be the start time. Moving forward, according, I think it was Mike Johnson of PW Insider that reported that, but that is fine with me if they move it up an hour. No big thing, and it just, especially if you're on the East Coast, it gives you extra time to get home, get to sleep, unwind, that kind of thing after pay-per-views. Here's what we got for WrestleMania so far. It is, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 10 matches here so far. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso. Logan Paul defending the U.S. title against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Gunther defending the IC against Sami Zayn. Rhea Ripley defending the Women's Championship against Becky Lynch. Io Sky defending the WWE Women's Championship against Bayley. The six-pack tag team ladder match for the tag team titles. Cody and Seth versus Rock and Roman. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. And Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Like I said, I would assume the Kabukis are going to have a title defense. Hopefully they will. That will be a match. Also, probably Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar will be added to that as well after they do whatever they're going to do next week on SmackDown. And I feel like hopefully 1 or 2 more matches. I'm trying to think of what other issues exist out there. Cross and Lashley and their respective crews should probably do something on the show. And then aside from that, I don't know what else you do other than some multi-man thing. I would really love it if they would put the Andre the Giant Battle Royal back on the WrestleMania main card. I don't understand why they put this on SmackDown when you have plenty of room. It's a 2-night show now. You could definitely squeeze this fucking thing in. It can be done. It can definitely be done. And the fact that it's regulated to SmackDown is just a bummer. It's just a huge bummer. Really wish they would put it back on the main card, because then more people would get a chance to compete at the actual show instead of just walking around in the back with nothing to do. So unfortunately, though, it will probably be a SmackDown thing. So that is pretty much the end of my notes. I'll go over here to the chat now, answer some super chats, see what you guys have to say. If you could continue hitting that thumbs up button for me, I would very much appreciate it. And if you're watching this video right now and you're not a subscriber, smack that button. It would be very much appreciative. Zach Goller, yes, Jersey Mike's is my like Saturday kind of tradition when I'm prepping for my podcast. I got a Jersey Mike's right across the street, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to go through the intersection and stuff. So I just order them right here online, like when I'm podcast prepping, and I just dip out for a quick 10 minutes. I run over there, grab my sandwich, come home, and then I eat it right before I go live, because right when I'm done with this podcast, then I shut everything off and head to work. So it's my only chance to really eat, and I usually sip on my tasty beverage. It's not as tasty as Big Kahuna Burger, but it's pretty good. Anyway, we got to get these super chats done because we got some good ones. The first one was way back, a while back, from Fox Star Killer. Appreciate that $20, my friend, and welcome back. Hollywood Heel debuted. Okay, Hollywood Heel debuted at No Way Out 2003. Went all the way till Backlash. Made a one night return on the June 2nd edition of Raw. And turned face, then went back to his WWF Music Volume 4 theme on the Go Home show for WrestleMania 20. Yeah, that I remember that about being the same as well. I forgot about the cameo in 2003, however. Did completely forget about that. But yeah, I remember when he went back to his other theme when he came back at WrestleMania 20. I swear, even one of those songs, that might be the show you're referring to, Fox Star. I remember in 2004, one of his appearances, they like literally played, there's one of his songs where you can hear his voice. He's talking in it. And I'm like, oh my God, that might be the Volume 4 song. But I was like, oh my God, they're literally playing it right off the CD. They're not even like, I thought that if Rock left his heel theme and went back, he would go back to that theme he used in like 2002, which is a little bit more spiced up version of the Volume 4 theme, I think. So I was just talking about how short of a time we had to enjoy that heel theme, and to hear it back now after all these years is pretty sweet. And it will likely be short-lived, especially if The Rock goes back to being a babyface. Fox Star's got 5 more for us right after that. He had a temporary remix of the Hollywood theme with an If You Smell intro on the 12/8/2003 Raw and the 3/1/04 Raw. Okay, I'll have to go back and listen to those. 12/8/03. It was funny how he would just kind of turn up at random times in WWE, like 03, 04. He did that thing with Eugene that I thought was really fun. So yeah, sometimes he would just turn up. Danny in Oak Park, thanks, dude. Appreciate the $2. Happy Saturday. Greg in the chat, happy Saturday to you. Yeet versus no yeet. That's what it is. Yeah, the Juliet. I'm glad I wasn't imagining that when I was watching Jimmy's promo. I'm like, this is fucking good. This is really good. I'm into the match now. What's up, Daniel Malcolm? Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for acknowledging me as your tribal Gurg. Right on. Marios. Rumaliotis. Good to see you. Appreciate the 5 from you. 5th super chat on a live stream. Hey, if you had to choose, what would your Love Ziggler nickname be? What the hell is a Love Ziggler? I don't know what that means. You guys can make me a nickname and I'll accept. Marios, whatever you want my Love Ziggler nickname to be. Is this going to be one of those things that the entire world is aware of, except for me? It probably will be, but I don't know what the fuck that is. But whatever you want my nickname to be, I'll adopt it. You seem like a nice person, and thank you for the 5th super chat. Rob Strickland, yeah, I think we're doing it. I think we're doing live reactions for both shows. I think we have to. Night 1 and 2, it's going to be a fucking party up in here, and I'm kind of working out how I'm going to do it. With the 2 nights, it kind of helps. I think what I'll do is maybe we'll do a watch along of night 1, and then maybe on day 2, prior to WrestleMania night 2, I'll come up and do a quick recap. Like after I gather my thoughts, because usually when we're doing live reactions, I'm not making show notes and stuff. I'm just hanging out with you guys. So after night 1, we'll probably sign off. I'll get some rest. I'll recap the show. I'll write down some notes, my opinions, come up here the following morning, offer my opinions on the previous show's night 1, and then say, hey, join us back here in a couple of hours for the next live reaction. I just hope my voice holds up for all of that, because then we're going to have to be back the night after Mania, Raw after Mania as well, which I'll probably be able to elaborate more on the WrestleMania show as a whole on that night. So it's going to be a lot of me. I would expect that between Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I will probably be on camera somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 hours. So it's going to be a lot, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a party up in here for WrestleMania. I have got to get out of here now, guys. I want to thank you so much for joining me this afternoon for the Wingy. It's always fun. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. You're on your way out the door if you don't mind. And please subscribe. And don't forget, join us tomorrow night here, right here on the channel, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We're going to watch WrestleMania 24. It's going to be a hoot. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much again for being here, and I'll talk to y'all real soon. Peace.